Run It Studios is the home of the Run Radio podcast and runradio.net, a podcast and station about the relentless, resilient, and innovative types, inspiring strides in life, business, and beyond. Welcome back to the Run Radio podcast. My name is Trina Wilcox. My guest today has a lot of experience with changing it up when it comes to career paths and trying different things. So I want to welcome Janine Bolon to the show.
Thank you so much. I am looking forward to being able to see what we can educate people on so that we can help them move along where they want to go.
Yes, I really love that. And I think that's so needed to hear different views of how people have tried things and set out on one path and maybe it took a turn, and how to adapt and go along with that without feeling like we have to stay course something that just doesn't feel right.
Exactly.
So I know you're a fellow Missourian. And so tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up in Missouri and what made you decide to choose the path that you started on.
Okay, for starters, my father was in the Navy, and so I had lived in more places than just America by the time we ended up in southern Missouri. That's where I actually went to high school. And it was very shocking. I have to say that that was probably the largest culture shock of my life, because going from living in Japan, Thailand, spending some time in the Eleuthera island of the Bahamas, and then coming to southern Missouri was an absolute shock to my system, because I was meeting people that had been in the county and had never left the county and were wondering why we bothered to even travel. And so education was not seen as paramount. And so the path that I picked, I was very much an analytical driver. And so I knew I was going to be a scientist. And so I went to the University of Missouri in Columbia because I had to get out of southern Missouri. And as you know, as long as you cross I-70 and get north of I-70, you're okay.
That's an interesting perspective. I know that there's a lot of talent here in Southwest Missouri is where I'm at. And I think we're thankful for the way technology has helped us be able to apply that and connect with that, because, we are locked in the middle of the United States. A lot of people do grow up and that's kind of where they're at, but it is interesting to see that you were someone that had different ideas and you acted on those. So you go to school, you decide science is where it's at. What was that like?
Well, it was very liberating for me. And by the way, let's put some context into my comments. Please realize this was back at the turn of the 1970s to 80s. Okay, so we did not have the internet. Cell phones were not something that had even hit the planet as far as we were concerned in southern Missouri. And so I just wanted to put some context of how long ago this was.
Okay.
Relative to now that we have the internet. Technology has done so much to help communities be able to expand their knowledge base, but that was unavailable at the time. So I had a party line on my telephone. And so this kind of lets you know, and I was down two dirt roads. So people talk about, you're in the sticks when you can't get pizza delivered. So when people say they're in the sticks, I go, can you get pizza delivered? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, you're not in the sticks, honey. Right. So that's, I just wanted to clarify before we moved on. I don't want to give the wrong impression, but yeah, what was it like? I loved being in science. I loved learning about when I got to college. That's when I learned that there were so many other professions, and I still hear that to this day. People don't know what is available as far as options and career paths until they get to college, or until you go to a job searching organization of some kind, or a job fair. And then you're like, what? You can get paid to do that? It's shocking, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I think that's real important. I was just having a conversation with someone like, that's a lot of pressure for a young person to decide what they want to do for the rest of their life. I think it's a great experience, college, if that's for you. but it's so necessary to know and feel out the opportunities that are out there. So, what's your advice to somebody that is thinking, I don't know what I want to do, and I feel this pressure to stick to something right now?
Right. I always share with people, and I did this with my own children. I homeschooled my four children, and when they would hit high school, that was the big decision, right? Okay, what are you going to do? I said, if you choose to go to college, then have an idea of what you want. Because if you don't know what you want, you're going to waste a lot of time and money, and you just don't want that. If you don't know what you want, what do you enjoy doing? What looks fun to you? Go to a trade school because right now our country is in desperate need of people in the trades. If you're into heating, vacuuming, air conditioning, electrician, plumbing, anything that has to do with construction, they are desperately in need of journeyman, occupations in that regard. So that is the first thing I recommend is if you don't know what you want to do and you don't mind working in those areas, that's a place to go. That way you're not working at Taco Bell or, fast food or something like that, which does not have a career trajectory, okay, for most people. And the second thing is if you do decide that college is the way to go, realize that what you go into college for first is not what you're going to end up doing last. I have I have very rarely met anyone who ends up using their college degree in the occupation they're interested in. However, I have also very rarely met people, unless they were comedians or actors. Okay, I'd like to qualify, unless
Mm-hmm.
they're comedians or actors, that said that their college degree wasn't worth anything. Like they actually did learn things while they were in college. But to me, I like to share with kids what is the skill set that is your next step. And one guy said to me, I'll never forget this. Well, the next thing I want to learn is how to run on gazelle legs and to use poi. And I'm like, okay, that is a great hobby. That is a great side hustle to work in a carnival or to work in fairs over the summer. That is fabulous. Go ahead and work on those skill sets and create a business around it. But what do you want to do as a day job, 9 to 5? I'm like, I don't say that you necessarily have to become a wage slave, but I am saying that there is a benefit to having a wave uh, a slave. Oh my gosh, wave slave. I love it when I do that because then it's all messed up in my head, right? But
Yeah.
anyway, it's totally appropriate to have a 9 to 5 so that you can move forward. Then you have financial stability so that you can move forward and then do what you truly love. So the thing that I love about your podcast and why I was so excited to be on Miss Wilcox's podcast so much was because there is this incorrect myth that once you make a decision, you have to stick with it. We'd like to call that, and I'm sure your other guests have already talked about this. That's a very 1950s mentality. It was very much part of the industrial age. We're now in the information age. And I guarantee you that your career can move at the speed of light, just like the electrons that run through our binary computers.
Yeah, you're very right. It does move fast. It How fast did it move for you though? What would you have changed looking back, or would you have changed anything?
I wouldn't have changed anything because I thoroughly loved wherever I was in the moment.
Ooh,
I started off selling earthworms to bait shops on my bicycle. So
okay.
I've been an entrepreneur from the beginning of my life. And I've also been a wage slave because I've also worked the 9 to 5 while running a side hack on the side. And that was before they called them side hacks. I was actually somebody that people were suspicious of because I had a 9 to 5er, but I also was quote, quote, moonlight. And remember when
Yeah,
moonlighting was a bad thing?
a
Like, oh
bad
my
thing.
God, you were not allowed to do that. Like, you'd actually have to sign documents that said, if you're caught working somewhere else or working for yourself, that they could sue you. And of course, nowadays people look at you and go, that's insane. I'm like, yeah, it was a very different world back then. So yeah, I find it lovely that we talk very openly about, oh yeah, you have your 9 to 5. What's your side hack? What's your passion? What is it that you're really
Hmm.
after? Yeah.
And I think that's really important for people to hear. I want to drive that home that, what you're doing to pay the bills may not be your love or your passion, and that's okay. If they collide, fantastic. But don't
Mhm.
feel bad about that. I feel like there's that pressure to make what you love doing the forefront of everything, income and all the things. And it's
Yeah.
just not usually that way for everybody.
It's very rare. And so when it does happen, then you celebrate it. But
Yeah.
for the most part, many of us are working toward that and realize that if you have to wait until you're in your late 40s, early 50s before you have the experience, the resources, the financial stability to be able to do that, you're not behind the curveball in any way. There are people I have met that were in their 80s before they finally were able to merge their hobby with their love, with what became a 9 to 5. But also, you have to remember those 80-year-olds weren't used to having social media either. So you're a step ahead as a young person in your 20s to 30s. You're totally able to do things now that literally were inconceivable for many 50-year-olds when they were in your same age group.
You said a minute ago that you wouldn't change anything, that you felt very happy in each stage and phase of your life. Is that just your natural personality, a gift you have, or is there any certain way that you had a special perspective that we could also take in? Because I know that there are a lot of times, and I hope I'm not alone, I'm probably not alone, that it's just frustrating. Like you feel like every turn you take is the wrong turn and you're frustrated instead of leaning in and enjoying those moments.
I think it comes from both sides. I think it's part of my personality type to make lemonade out of lemons. I've had some of my critics call me I'm a member of the happiness cult.
Okay.
I have been accused of being a member of the happiness cult. But I look at the life that my critics live, and I look at the life I live, and I'll keep my life. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. The thing is, it takes it takes determination and discipline to live the life, your best lived life. There's a lot of pressure on young people that you need to be living your best life ever. And I look at that and go, well, how would you know? Number one, most of us get the brain wipe when we're born. If you remember a past life or something like that, that's still up for debate in many quarters of the world. So but let's say that you're like me and you were able to be exposed to Buddhism at a very young age. Let's say you have that. And in Buddhism, it's also known in a lot of circles as the religion of no religion. Okay, so just to
Mhm.
kind of clarify that as well. But they had 3 states of consciousness that were very important to live a life that kept you out of suffering. And this is actually going around to your question. When you feel like everything that you're doing is the wrong answer or the wrong, then that's where the Buddhists go, wait a minute, stop just a minute and take a breath. Because there's really only 3 states of consciousness that you can keep yourself out of suffering, where you can put yourself in a self imposed hell. And we want to keep you out of that. And so the first one is be enthusiastic. Okay. Like, not, you can't live that way 24/7 to be enthusiastic, but be enthusiastic about something. And what is that something? What is the something that you can be enthusiastic about? Number two, if you can't be enthusiastic about anything, because right now you're in the suck, your life just sucks right now. Um, then if that is it, then they say, then at least be eager about something. And if you can't find yourself becoming eager about anything, and this is my favorite metaphor, I wish I was the one that came up with it, but actually it was Eckhart Tolle. When he was talking about it, he was like, at least you can be in a state of acceptance. It's pouring down rain. You have a flat tire. You have 4 kids in car seats. Yes, this has happened to me. 4 kids in the car seats. Now you're flat tire. You got to change the tire. You can put yourself into total and complete hell on earth in that moment by suffering. I should have taken care of my tires. I had an intuition. I didn't do it. I should have. I could have. I would have. You can really put yourself in an awful place. Or you can say, well, it is 10:30 at night. It's totally pitch black. I at least have a flashlight. I'm going to keep the kids in the car seat. I'm going to take rocks and put rocks against all the tires to make sure I take care of my kids. And I'm going to find a way to change this freaking tire. That is a state of acceptance where you're not creating a hell for the people that are around you, and you're not creating an inner hell that you're walking through. So, back to your question, what do you do when every door that you are trying to walk through is being slammed in your face? Number one, breathe. I know a lot of people are really tired about hearing that, but literally, when you get into that place, you put yourself into fight or flight. So, you want to take a deep breath through your nose and you hold it for 1 or 2 seconds and you breathe out through your mouth twice. That calms down your vagal nerve. And the reason you want to do that is because you're trying to get yourself out of fight or flight. You're trying to get yourself out of a state of frustration because for some reason you've told yourself a lie. Would you like to know what that lie is? This is
Tell
why
me.
you're frustrated. The lie is you have done something wrong. That's a lie. You have made the best choices you knew to make in each moment, but you are now here. Despite your best efforts, despite all the things that you have attempted, you are now here. That's that state of acceptance. So you sit there and you breathe and you go, I have no idea what to do next. I have done this many times in my life, by the way. I have no idea what to do next. Okay. And I sat there and I breathed for just a few minutes. And then all of a sudden I said, what would I do if I did know what to do next? And that's the way you can get around your subconscious mind that's throwing up blocks to
Mhm.
your analytical thinking, because literally your subconscious mind is trying to protect you from yourself, right? Because nothing can get you into more trouble than your brain, right?
Yes, I am learning this.
So what you do then is you say, okay, I don't know what to do in this moment. Breathe a little bit and you say, okay, if I did know what to do, what would I do next? An answer will come to you. Go do that. My answer was go make a hot cup of cocoa. I'm like, it is 101 degrees in southern Missouri, and I'm supposed to go make hot chocolate. Are you out of your mind? Yes, I am. So I went and I made a cup of hot cocoa. And in the period of time it took me to make that cup of hot cocoa, the phone rang and an answer was delivered to me.
Whoa, cool.
So sometimes you've got to stop thinking about what's stressing you out and go make a cup of hot cocoa, even if it's 101 degrees and you
Yeah.
have 98-degree humidity. Go make a hot cup of cocoa and slow your little butt down.
So we've got where you're in school, you're doing research, you're raising kids. What else is happening in the midst of all this?
At one point, I became an adjunct professor at a local community college, and I was teaching math and science to non-majors. And it was then that I started teaching financial principles to the freshmen. And that was all because I was noticing that the grades were dropping as the semester went on. And people said, oh, it's probably because the course material gets more difficult. I went, these kids are smart. No, that's not. I knew there was something going on. I found out that so many of the students were on scholarships and they were running out of money. And so they were living on cup of noodles, ramen, and other non-nutritious fresh foods. I had one kid that actually came to me and said, Mrs. Bolon, can you help me? My tooth is getting loose. And I noticed his hair was falling out. He had scurvy because he hadn't eaten anything fresh and so very long through the semester. So these were the type of
No.
things that these kids would show up and they were barely getting through. And this is around 2005, 2006. So that's when I started writing books. I became an author and I would start writing at around 3 a.m. in the morning and I would write until the first child woke up. And it's a habit to this day I still keep, although I'm kind of a lazy about, I sleep until about 4 a.m. now.
So, okay, so you're writing then, and you've got a lot of books published. Tell me about that journey. Did you self-publish? Did you hybrid? Did you go traditional?
Okay. So please remember, we're going to have to go back into the time machine. And it's 2005. Remember, you don't have YouTube yet. YouTube doesn't show up until about 2006. Okay. I had a MySpace account.
Okay.
And Facebook was for college kids and people trying to connect.
Yeah.
Okay. At the time, it was still called, it was Twitter. And you would arrive at an airport and you would let your family know that you had landed using Twitter because we did not have SMS texting like we do now. So I just want to give some context to where we
I
were
know.
technologically at the time. So for me to show up as a college professor that's teaching physics and mathematics and say, hey, I'd love for you to publish me because I have this great book on financial principles that uses the 60/40 principle, which was a system I used only for my family. I never thought in a million years I would ever teach it outside of my family. A publisher, I got 35 rejection letters and I decided, skip this noise. My students desperately needed the information and that was just starting. Remember when it was called vanity publishing?
Yep.
You were so vain that you were publishing under your own name.
And you had to be so careful of you still have to watch for the scams, but boy, they were on overtime.
Yes, back in that day. And so
Uh-huh.
I happened to find a reputable company. I met with the CEO and he taught me about this thing that he was designing at the time, which was called print on demand. And that was a new thing. And so I was one of the first 100 authors that signed on for print on demand. Amazon didn't have KDP yet, Kindle Direct Publishing.
Mhm.
That wasn't even a twinkle in their eye yet. And so that's how early on I was in the process. Yeah.
And oh my gosh, it's so fast because now it's just common, common knowledge. That's where you go first. So have
Mhm.
you stuck with that or did you deviate a little bit and move into KDP at all?
Oh, I moved into KDP because it became very difficult to assure Amazon that I really was the author of these
Oh,
books.
yeah.
It's fascinating how that process has moved forward. And so you have to go through. I've been in the business for so long that some of my older books don't even show up on Amazon even anymore,
Oh,
even though I originally had them on the global network. So that's one of those things that as time marches on, it gets interesting how it works. But yes, I have several books now up on KDP, and you can get, I think, up to, I think it's 18 of my books, but not all of my books are available on Amazon because of their processes now.
what do you enjoy most about writing? I mean, I see your sign in the back, Authorpreneurs Headquarters. And so I feel like that's really got a special place in your heart.
Yes. Um, the thing I love most about writing, and this was a joke, and mothers understand this, I get to speak in complete sentences. For 2 hours a day, I can speak in complete and total sentences. I have cognizant thoughts. I have thoughts that make their way into full formation and expression through the written word.
That's fantastic. I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. That's great. What do you also teach the principles of writing and stuff to other people?
I do. I have a writers group that's a subscription program. That way people can jump off at any time or jump back on. So some people are like, oh, I really want to write a book. They'll sign up for the program and then all of a sudden something will happen. They'll drop off, then they'll come back on. And usually we can help somebody who's never written a book before. Usually it takes them about 2 years with my program to finish their book. And some people are like, oh my gosh, it takes them 2 years. And I'm like, have you ever tried to write a book by yourself?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, huh.
for
Right. So
sure.
I always kind of grin, and people are like, yeah, I still have an idea for a book I haven't written yet. I'm like, yeah, it helps to have a program.
Before we actually got on the Zoom, we were talking about the many things that you do have going. You've got the books, you've also got videos and a YouTube channel, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. I want people to have access to all of that. So kind of touch on all of those things that you do have going and what they could do for someone else.
Okay. In the show notes below, we'll make sure that you guys have access, since Trina was kind enough to have me on the show. We'll have a lot, but you can get overwhelmed with everything I've done because I've been in the business for so long and I have not just done only one thing. I'm a multidimensional personality, as many of you are, and I have run down four separate paths and created four separate businesses under one umbrella. And so what I recommend is that you go to the Janine Bolon show on YouTube. It didn't start until 2018, but I had been on YouTube since 2006. I've just hidden a lot of my early stuff because it's embarrassing. Oh my gosh, you look at that stuff from 2007, you go, oh my God, we had no idea. It's like looking at MTV. Kids are like, what were you doing with those videos? We're like, hey, nobody knew what to do. They were
Yeah,
just,
we were winging it.
we were winging it in the 80s, baby.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the Janine Bolon show, I've been in radio or podcast since 1982. And so I was one of the beginning audio bloggers. So back in 2000s, I had from Blog Talk Radio, which many people recognize now, they were just starting out and they couldn't quite figure out, were we pirates? Because they thought we were radio pirates, like we were pirating channel. And we would be like, no, 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 we're on radio. It's just through the internet. And people are like, so what channel do I tune into? So a lot of people are like, oh my God.
Yes.
I'm like, we
Yes.
would have to explain to people, you have to go onto your computer to hear us. So we were called audio bloggers. And so it wasn't until 2016 that I was actually labeled then a podcaster. So I've been in podcasting since 2016. And we have a lot of those images and those shows up on the Janine Bolon show as well.
That's that's good. What's something that you haven't done yet that you want to do that's on the list? Maybe it has nothing to do with what you're doing now.
I want my student to teach me how to use poi. I really love throwing fire around, and I cannot wait to learn how to juggle. It's not technically juggling. You have these chains and you have balls of fire on the end of it. I'm really looking forward to learning how to use poi.
Oh my gosh, I feel like that would scare me to death. No fear at all, or is that part of the intrigue?
If you've noticed, when people are working with poi, they wear hoodies and they're soaked in water so that
Ah,
yeah, there's a trick to everything, my friend.
very interesting. Well, when you start that, you come back and tell us about that, and we will learn from you on that as well. Anything else that you want to tell people that are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs that could, take a step today to move forward in the direction they want to be going?
I think the biggest thing is discipline. Many of the entrepreneurs that I've met end up creating a job,
Mm,
not a business. And so the discipline is this: do not build anything, do not create anything unless somebody has told you they will pay you for it and they pay a down payment.
mm.
Until you do your sales first, do not build out things. I see people all the time, and I love them to death, but they will build out a whole course and then they try to sell it. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You have somebody say, oh, would you teach me that? And I say to them, sure, how much would you pay me for it? Well, I have no idea. I'm like, well, for me to build it out and everything, it would cost about $1,000. Oh, I couldn't pay that. Well, how much could you pay? So you start negotiating the sales, and that determines the amount of energy and effort you're going to put into building whatever widget it is that you're going to build. So
That
make sure someone has paid you cash on the barrelhead, as we like to say in Southern Missouri, cash on the barrelhead before you build.
that's very wise. I feel like a lot of us feel like that we've got to start giving and build that portfolio, give it away for free before we have any worth. And I think that's a very wise point because I've kind of faced some of that with my podcast project that I want to do for businesses where they come on and I help them tell their business story. Well, I feel this pressure to have it all ready to go and then sell it out. So you're kind of giving me a very new perspective on that. Very good. Thank you so much. Come
You're
back
welcome.
anytime. Your information, your wisdom is very useful, and I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for having me on the show today. It's been a delight. I hope we help somebody.
I think, well, you've helped me already. Thanks so much,
Okay.
Janine Bolon. Be sure you follow along. You can link over and watch and listen to all platforms from runradio.net.